Hey guys, Alex Kahn here, and I want to show you these three 1/18 scale diecast models. They are 1966 GT40 Mark IIs, and the reason why I picked these three particular models is if you had seen Ford v Ferrari in 2020, or if you knew anything about the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans, you would know that these three Fords finished first, second, and third at that race and in the movie. So in particular, am a huge fan of car movies. To be honest, I don't really like race car movies though, but Ford v Ferrari is the biggest exception to that rule for me. Ford v Ferrari for me is probably my top 5, maybe top 10 favorite car movies of all time, even though it's a race car movie. My problem with race car movies is they're usually very, very, very straightforward and dull. It's just who's the fastest. But Ford v Ferrari, there's a lot more to it. It shows the historical rivalry between Ford and Ferrari, and then it shows all the drama taking place behind Shelby America's drivers and the executives. So, anyways, there's a little backstory to this movie and the race. So back in the day, Ford was in agreement, where they were in talks to buy out Ferrari, and the problem with this deal for Enzo Ferrari was that Enzo Ferrari wanted basically he wanted more creativity, even though he was selling his company. But Ford did not agree to that, so they were kind of at an impasse. So what ended up happening was Fiat ended up partnering with Ferrari, and this really insulted the people over at Ford, especially Henry the Ford II's son, or Henry the Ford II. So his idea for revenge was to beat the Italians, namely Ferrari, at the racetracks. So they partnered up with Carroll Shelby. Carroll Shelby hired Ken Miles to help develop this GT40 Mark II. So they ended up putting a bigger engine inside, but it's got a 7-liter Ford engine, and it's more specifically it's a 427. So the change from the Mark I to the Mark II was they had to accommodate this bigger engine, so they needed a bit more space inside. But GT40, it stands for Grand Touring 40. 40 being the height at the windshield, which was the height restriction on these race cars. So let me show you these cars really quick here. So as I said, yeah, all three cars finished first, second, and third. Unfortunately, this is more of a publicity finish. So Ken Miles was apparently leading this race hardcore, but the Ford executive Leo Beebe, I forgot who the actor was, but he basically told Carroll Shelby to tell the blue car driver to slow down. He wanted the blue car to slow down so that the black car could catch up and the gold car could catch up, and that way they could get a photo finish at the finish line. And that would just be a very propagandic photo showing Ford's dominance over Ferrari. Because again, there was that huge deal being broken by Ferrari previously. So that was supposed to be the revenge from Ford. Now, here's the problem. Ken Miles and his fellow buddy Amon, they were the two race car drivers for the blue car. They were winning, and they were told to slow down to let the black car and the gold cars catch up. The gold car was driven by Hutcherson and Bucknam, and they were from Team Holman and Moody, whereas the blue and the black car, they were both Shelby America. So the black car was driven by the very famous McLaren and Amon, both from New Zealand, whereas the blue car was driven by Ken Miles, played by Christian Bale, and then the other driver was Holm. So that was a little situation there. And if you guys don't know the history, basically when the black car and the blue car finished dead heat with each other, the French officials gave the award for first place to the black car, even though Ken Miles, who was leading hardcore, was ordered to slow down by Ford. Due to the startup, whereas the blue car started a lot more ahead of the black car, the French officials found this rule that in the event of a tie, they would have to look at the placement of the cars at the startup. So as a technicality, McLaren and Amon won that. Ken Miles was on his track to winning not only the 12 hours of Sebring, the 24 hours of Daytona, he had the opportunity to win the big one at the 24 Hours at Le Mans, all in the same year. And that would have been a huge feat. And unfortunately, a few months after this incident, Ken Miles, he perished test driving Ford's new J car. But a little cool thing, after the 1966 win for these Ford GT40s, these cars actually won at Le Mans for the next 3 years. So they dominated Ferrari at this event. What's kind of weird is at this race, I think Ford put in some 8 to 13 cars, whereas Ferrari only put in 2 cars. And Ferrari's car with the 330 P3, I wanted to get that model too, especially the one driven by Bandini. But when I looked at the price for that model, it was way too expensive. So that's why I settled with getting these 3 cars, because they are the winners. So I want to show you the details of these cars. So let's use Ken Miles' car as the test subject here. Now, in the movie and in the race, Ken Miles, when he started up, he had a hard time getting his door shut. So realistically, his car at the startup was more like this. See that? How it's kind of open? And then he had to make a pit stop, and one of the crew members like sledgehammered the door into place. But yeah, all these doors open. And this particular car, from what I understand, previous models had the steering wheel on the left side, which is incorrect. The steering wheel should be on the right side. So, wow, this is sweet. All this opens up, actually. Hold on. Don't know if anything in the back opens up. Probably not. There we go. So you can open it up like this to see the spare tire, spare wheel, and the whole entire front opens up too like that. That is gorgioso. That's not a word. That is very sweet looking, guys. So yeah, all these cars do the same thing, but as you can see, they're all considered the dirty variant, which for the longest time, I was trying to get this car in the dirty version, but then they went out of stock, so I had to wait for these cars to go back in stock. And when I saw that they offered the other 2 cars in dirty, I was like, shoot, I need to get the other ones. So there's really not much detail on the undercarriage here. It just says 1/18th, 1966 Ford GT40 Mark II. Now, what's really cool is I went to Mecum Auctions in Kissimmee, and they actually had one of the screen-used Ford GT40s from the Le Mans scene that Christian Bale drove. And I'm a short guy myself, and oh my gosh, these cars are really tiny. And Christian Bale is a very lengthy, tall individual. But I guess, you know, they might look small, but they can accommodate some pretty tall drivers. But yeah, this is my look at these cars here. Now, for the photo finish in the movie, it appeared to be a little bit different in the movie as opposed to real life, because in the movie, you know, all 3 of these cars, they almost finished dead heat with each other. But from the historical photos I saw, it was McLaren and Ken Miles in the front. And then way in the back, you had Team Holman and Moody's golden car. Like, it was way in the back. I don't have any room here. But, yeah. But, you know how movies are. Sometimes they just take liberties. And why is there crap on my car? Look at this. There is crap on my windshield on McLaren. Well, I guess that kind of speaks volumes about all the crap from McLaren's camp. Yeah, I don't know who to fault for that. Probably Ford's fault. I wouldn't blame the drivers. You know, the drivers are doing their thing. Although, if I was McLaren, I'd have been like, I don't want this award. There had to have been a way to not accept the award. I don't know. But what do you guys think of these cars? What do you think of Ford v Ferrari, the movie? I freaking love that movie. That's one of my top favorite movies of 2020. Actually, it was Ford v Ferrari and Once Upon a Time in America, or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, were my two favorite movies of that year. But what do you guys think of the movie? What do you guys think of the finish? Were you guys upset by that too? And I can't think of anything else to say. I just comment on my video. Let me know what you guys think. Okay.